We are now going to look at the midpoint formula, and as usual, before we get started, I just want to remind you on how to do mathematics. So number and copy your example, the examples, ask your tutor or teacher if there are any steps that you do not understand, number the questions, and unless you have the ability to get fit while watching someone else run, you must do the questions on your own before watching the answers. Then mark your answers, and if it is incorrect, write down the corrections. Make sure you understand where you went wrong. This will enable you to do better the next time you attempt a similar sum. Now we're going to start with the midpoint formula. So if I'm given 2 points on a Cartesian plane, and these 2 points have the following coordinates, we'll call the one A and the other one B, then the line that connects them, if we find the point that lies directly or exactly in the middle on that line, we will then be finding the midpoint between these 2 points. And the formula for that point is quite simple. If I have the midpoint of M is equal to where I take the coordinates, the x coordinate, the x coordinate of A plus the x coordinate of B, and divided by 2. And also for the y coordinate of my midpoint, I simply take the y coordinates of A, y coordinate of B, and divide it by 2. Yeah, so this formula you will need to know of by heart. Then before we get started with the practical examples of how to use the formula, just to see what we'll be doing in this video, we're first just going to do the straightforward, using it straightforward to determine the midpoint between 2 points. And then we're going to find one of the points if we know the midpoint, but we don't know one of the other points, to see how we're going to do that. So for the first example, example 3, to determine the midpoint, we are given these points A and B, and we need to determine coordinates of M, the midpoint of A, B. Right, so as we saw, our midpoint, if I say midpoint of AB, I just use these notations. You can use the notation that your teacher teaches you, or preferably what they teach you, but what works for you as well. So then the midpoint M will be, if I just write my formula down, it will be XA plus XB over 2, and my other coordinate will be YA plus YB over 2. Right, so now just substituting in those 2 points, we'll have, for the A coordinates, we have minus 2, or the X coordinates, minus 2 plus 1 over 2. And then the Y coordinates, we have 4 plus negative 3 over 2. Right, and then we just simplify. So here we have minus 2 plus 1, that gives me a negative 1. So this will then be a negative a half. And that one is 4 minus 3 is 1. So this is then just a half. So for question 3.1, we are given the points P and Q. Determine the coordinates of R, which is the midpoint of PQ. So I'm going to start by saying midpoint of PQ is equal to R, whereas my X coordinate is the X coordinates of P and Q added together. So X of Q over divided by 2, and then also my Y coordinate is YP plus YQ over 2. And then I simply substitute in those values and simplify. So this is then 5 plus negative 2, or just 5 minus 2, 5 plus negative 2 over 2. And for the Y coordinate, Y is 5 plus 3 over 2. And then I simplify. So this is then 3 over 2, and that side is 8 over 2, which becomes 4. And that's my coordinates for the midpoint of PQ. Question 3.2. We're given the points M and N. Determine the coordinates of P, the midpoint of MN. So once again, I write midpoint of MN, and that's going to be P, which is my x coordinate of M plus x coordinate of N divided by 2, and my y coordinate of M plus y coordinates of N divided by 2, and then I substitute in my values. So this is going to be -1 plus 1 over 2. For my y value, I've got -5 plus -10 over 2, and then we simplify. So this is then -1 plus 1 is 0, so this one is 0, and -5 minus another 10 is -15, so we have -15 over 2. And I normally, when I work with coordinate geometry, I just leave my answers in a fraction form. Then we're given points D and F. Determine the coordinates of E, the midpoint. So, as usual, midpoint of DF is equal to E with its coordinates being x value of D plus x value of F over 2, and y value of D plus y value of F over 2. Substitute. We have then -1 plus 5 over 2, and for y we have 3 plus 0 over 2, and then simplify. So -1 plus 5, or 5 minus 1, that's 4 over 2, so that gives us 2. 3 plus 0 is 3 over 2, so that's just 3 over 2. Alright, so now that was a bit of practice in determining the midpoint. Let's look at determining the unknown coordinates. So for example 4, we have that if M is the midpoint of A and B, determine the coordinates of B. So in this case, we have a line. Where can I draw this? Let's say we have a line where we have coordinates of A and B, and we know that M is 1 and 2, but we do not know what B is. Now, if I write all of this down, we know that if my midpoint formula says my midpoint is 1 and 2, and I also know that the midpoint is equal to adding together the x values, so that would be x plus 9 over 2, and my y values is y plus 8 over 2. Alright, so now I know that this value must be equal to this value. So x plus 9 over 2 should be equal to 1. So now I can just solve for that. And also that y plus 8 over 2 is equal to 2. So solving for that is just x plus 9 is 2. I just take up my 2 or multiply both sides by 2. And then x is 2 minus 9, so x is equal to minus 7. And then on this side, we have y plus 8 is equal to 4. And then take the 8 over, y is equal to 4 minus 8, y is equal to negative 4. So therefore, if they say determine the coordinates, very important to then not end here, but actually give the coordinates. Therefore, B is then negative 7 and negative 4. For question 4.1, if Q is the midpoint of R and S, determine the coordinates of S. So we just want to see what this looks like. We have R and S, whereas S is unknown. And Q we do know as being minus 2 and minus 3. Okay, and R we also no as 1 and 7. Okay, so we know that Q, being the midpoint, and being -2, -3, will be equal to the x values added together divided by 2. So x plus 1 divided by 2, and the y values added together and divided by 2. So y plus 7 divided by 2. And now we can simply say this part will be equal to this part. So x plus 1 over 2 will be equal to -2, and y plus 7 over 2 will be equal to -3. So solving for x and y is quite simple. So we have x plus 1 equals to -4, x equals to -4 minus 1 when we take the 1 over. So x is equal to -5. On this side we have y plus 7 is equal to -6. Take the 7 over, y is equal to -6 minus 7, and y therefore is equal to -13. Okay, and then we need the coordinates. So the coordinates of S is therefore -5 and -13. Question 4.2, if n is the midpoint of M and P. So I just like to draw pictures to see what's going on, or to represent it graphically. So we have M being a 9 minus 3, and P is x, y, and the midpoint being N is -3 and 2. Okay, now if I say the midpoint N -3 and 2, that is also equal to N, whereas to find N we have to add the x values and divide it by 2, so that's x plus 9 divided by 2, and to find the y coordinate we add y plus -3 over 2, alright, and then we take our x coordinates and equal them to each other, so x plus 9 over 2 equals to -3, and my y coordinates, y minus 3 over 2 is equal to 2, and then we solve. So x plus 9 is equal to -6, x is equal to -6 minus 9, and therefore x is equal to -15. On this side, y minus 3 is equal to 4. Take the 3 over, y is equal to 4 plus 3, y is equal to 7. Therefore, my coordinates of P will be -15 and 7. Then finally for question 4.3, if T is the midpoint of U and V, determine the coordinates of V, and I'm going to draw my image or my graph again. So we have U as -1 and 4, and we have V over here as x and y, and the midpoint is given as T, which is 4 and -5. Alright, so T being the midpoint, which is 4 and -5, is equal to also adding the x coordinates of my 2 points, x plus -1 over 2, and y plus 4, y plus 4 over 2. Okay, and then we equal our x coordinates, so x minus 1 over 2 is equal to 4, y coordinates, y plus 4 over 2 is equal to -5, and solve. So x minus 1 is equal to 8, x is equal to 8 plus 1, so x is equal to 9. Over here we have y plus 4 is equal to -10, y is equal to -10 minus 4, so y is equal to -14. Therefore, my coordinates of V will be equal to 9 and -14. So that was determining the unknown coordinate, and that means we are done.